A couple quick house cleaning announcements. Please silence your cell phones. We do encourage you to take photos or live tweet it with hashtag IST Startup. Just make sure that there's no sound or it's off of vibrate. In addition to asking questions via Twitter, you can also submit questions via Poll Everywhere by texting IST Startup space and your question to 22333. We will be live streaming this and taking photos. If you don't feel comfortable being in one of those photos potentially, please move to the back or come see me afterwards. Before I introduce our next speaker, I'd like to introduce Mitch Robinson. Mitch Robinson is a junior here at Penn State. He is the former president of InnoBlue and the founder of Resume Ruby. He will be introducing our speaker.
Cool, thank you. I want to introduce David. David's a co-founder of Weebly, which is a phenomenal way to make a great, high-quality website with no HTML experience. David was on the Forbes 30 Under 30 list in both 2011 and 2012. He's also the youngest recipient of the Penn State Lifetime Achievement Award, and is an avid traveler, DJer, and lives out in San Francisco. So without further ado, David.
Thank you. Cool. Mic working. Everyone can hear me. Cool. So I'm really excited to be back, and hopefully I'll get a chance to meet a lot of you guys. I want to start off, so we're going to leave plenty of time for questions, so start thinking about questions if you have any. I'm going to start off by just kind of telling the story. So, the goal here is to just tell you a little bit about Weebly, kind of what it was like when we got started, and kind of what that looked like. Because not too long ago, I was a student here at IST, and so I want to kind of take you through that journey from start to where we are now. So if you're not familiar with it, what is Weebly? Weebly is the easiest way for anyone to create a site or store. We have a couple examples to show you. One of those here is the whiskey ball. So this is super cool. This guy named Caesar was a product manager in LA. He's on vacation in Southeast Asia, and he saw this machine that can make these really large round ice cubes that are perfect for drinking whiskey, minimally dilutive and all of that. But the machine that made it was really expensive, and he thought, hey, I could do way better than this. So he created this mold, right, where there's two halves, and you kind of pour the water on top, and it makes these awesome round ice cubes. He created the whole thing himself on Weebly. Now sells millions of dollars a year, this product. Here's another example. Exo Bruno, a lady from Portland, learned how to make handmade leather goods from her grandmother. It was always very local boutique shops. She set up the site herself on Weebly and now sells globally. And then the last example here, also in Oregon, this is our table that aims to cut out the middleman with food. So their thought is, if you live relatively close to the farm, why do you buy through the supermarket? Why don't you just have the farm deliver the food to you and cut out the middleman? And they created the site themselves here on Weebly. So really, what all these stories have in common? Our mission as a company is to help the world's entrepreneurs succeed. And, we think that, people, have an idea, they have something that they're really passionate about, but unfortunately, in starting a company, some of the hardest challenges for a lot of people are technology challenges. There's technology barriers to either creating your site or your store, getting online, growing your business. Our mission as a company is to help anyone with a great idea be able to start that idea and create opportunity for themselves. So let's, I want to take a little bit of time here to walk through our story and give you, just a crystal clear view through photos and metrics, what it looked like from students here at IST out to San Francisco and where we are now. So here's the first photo. This was in February 2006. This is a photo I took at that time, and just kind of gives you some perspective. Not too much has changed since then, but this is when we started working on Weebly. And I was in Dr. Santoro's class. And the idea here was that to create a web app, and it was open-ended. And so I was thinking about things that were hard, and this one seemed like it was really hard. And it's hard to remember back then, but at the time, if you wanted to create your own website, you had to use Front Page or Dreamweaver, and those tools were fucking awful. They still are. The whole UI was completely unimaginative. It was sort of, they repurposed the Word document interface for creating websites. And the thing is, people that didn't know what they were doing, that didn't know HTML and CSS, the web pages of the time were essentially online Word documents, right? You kind of remember that, maybe that black background, just kind of text and some photos, but we're sort of looking, and I had one friend, Jordan, who was taking this astronomy class, and she was using Front Page and just having a hell of a time at it, and was just looking here, it's like, these are things that we can make a lot better. It wouldn't be that hard to do that. So started working on Weebly in February 2006. And now I sort of introduce you here to the theme of these slides. This is a graph of our new users per day. So this is a graph of new users signing up. And what you see here, this is in August 2006, 6 months in, and you can see that our record sign-up day, I think we sent out some invitations of friends and family. We had about 13 people sign up to create a website. That was our record day, but still working, hadn't launched yet, right? And so I think one thing that is a theme here is, think about this. We've been working on Weebly for 6 months at this point in time. 6 months is a long time, right? And we hadn't even launched yet. So we're just still cranking away. Dan, Chris, and I were all interning that summer in New York City. And we're just sort of working nights and weekends, right? So we were either full-time students or had a full-time job interning, but literally as soon as you come home from work, just work late into the night, until I need to go to bed, wake up, and then go back to my internship. So, for 6 months working nights and weekends, just trying to grow this thing. And again, we sent out a couple of invitations here and there to friends and family, but really haven't even launched the thing yet. So here's October 2006, 8 months in. You can see here we have a day. I think Dan went to a forum and basically said, "Hey guys, this is really cool. We got some invite codes. Try this out." And you can see how now our new record sign-up day is about 32 users in one day that signed up. So again, 8 months in, still haven't launched, but still cranking away. An interesting thing happened here. This was in October 2006. I was up late. Our apartment was, this is where a lot of the coding happened, our apartment was 116 Beaver Hill. I was up late just reading Slashdot, reading the news, and that kind of tells you, there's a lot of things that are going to tell you how long ago this was. One of those is that I was reading Slashdot, which used to be really popular. But there was a news article that said, Y Combinator, here's the thing, it just launched, Paul Graham, and I remember I'd kind of heard about it before, and so I was like, this is cool, so I went to check it out. It turns out that the application deadline was that night. So I think it was about 1 in the morning, and the application deadline was midnight Pacific. So it was coming up really soon. So I only had about 2 hours to put together an application. I couldn't call up Dan and Chris to ask if they wanted to drop out of school and move out to San Francisco. So I put together the application. I submitted it with less than an hour to go. And then the next day I woke up and I called up Chris, and I was like, "Hey man, you want to drop out and move to San Francisco?" And he's like, "Hell yeah, let's do this." Just gave me the answer on the spot. I called up Dan, and I was like, "Dan, you want to drop out of school and move to San Francisco?" And he was like, let me call my parents." And then he called me back 45 minutes later. He's like, "Yeah, I'm in. I'll definitely do this." So here we are in November 2006, a month later. So now it's been 9 months that we've been working on Weebly. 9 months is a long time. And we're just getting around to launching now. So we launched, we got on TechCrunch. This is not how a normal press graph looks. So we were afraid of our servers burning up and catching on fire and the site crashing because there's too many people. So we had actually instituted some kind of waitlist system at the front door if too many people signed up. And you can see how we were giving out invites throughout a couple days. But this is cool, right? So now we're launched, and now we're starting to get people coming in the door. And we get about 450 people. I think in grand total among these days, about 2,000 people that had come from that article and signed up to use Weebly. And that was really exciting. That was so exciting. Finally we got the validation, we launched, and people thought it was cool. This is an interesting photo. Actually, the same day that we got the news article on TechCrunch, we also interviewed for Y Combinator and got accepted. And this photo was taken, so we were in Boston. Our friend Dana just happened to be in Boston, so she was hanging out with us while we were waiting for the phone call from Paul Graham. And this photo, I think the very first thing we did was we each lined up 3 shots at the bar, and then we took this photo after that. So, so that gives you a little bit more context. But we got accepted into Y Combinator, and that meant we were going to skip out our last semester and move out to San Francisco. Here's January 2007. So I packed up all of our servers in my car and drove out, made the drive from here to State College out to San Francisco. In January 2007, here's kind of a view of what that looks like. So there's a couple interesting things to notice on this graph. One of those is there's a day where we got 0 signups. That I'm nearly certain means that we were down. So you can kind of see where the site crashed in the middle there. But what you're seeing here is it goes up and then it comes back down, right? But we're now at like 50 new users a day, right? And things aren't exactly heading in the right direction. It's not like it's like up into the right exploding. This is 11 months in, so almost a full year we've been working on this thing. We launched, and this thing's not even taking off. So here's a couple photos of our apartment in San Francisco. This is apartment 902 in the Crystal Towers in North Beach. And you can see what this looks like. We basically just took 3 desks, pushed them together in our living room, and we just worked 24/7. There's a couple things that really date this photo. One's that like 15-inch LCD monitor, and the other one is a video cassette player that I haven't seen one of those in a while. But it wasn't all bad. We had a gorgeous view of the bay from the 9th floor, and literally that's just what we did. We'd work until we wanted to sleep, and then we would sleep until we woke up, and then we'd work until we wanted to go to sleep. That's pretty much all we did. Our hours at the time, we actually didn't see this view very much because mostly we would work probably, usually until about 8 or 9 a.m. When I first started dating my wife, she would actually be waking up for work around the time I'd be going to bed. So we'd sort of like, say hi, and then I'd head to bed. And our only rule at the time was we had to take 1 day a week off. So we didn't want to burn out. So the rule was Friday at 10 p.m. we'd stop work, go out. And then Saturday, the rule was no work. So if you want to just lay around, watch some trashy TV, whatever. And then as soon as we wake up on Sunday, we start working again. So here's another fun thing. So this is a little display that Chris hacked together. A little hardware display that would show us our total users logged. So total users that have signed up and total users logged in. This is about a year in. We've now had almost 7,000, but not quite 7,000 users sign up. The interesting thing was there was 3 users logged in. That was pretty standard because it was just the 3 of us working on Weebly. And I do remember like one of the big moments was the first time we saw that number go to 4. We were so excited. And then here's a graph in January 2007. So we got featured on TechCrunch again. I mean, if you look at these graphs, it's interesting, right? It goes up, it kind of settles at a new level, but it's kind of, it doesn't have an upwards trend, right? It's not like going up. It's just kind of flat or maybe even going down a little bit. So again, 11 months in, we got featured on TechCrunch again. This looks much more normal, straight up, then straight back down the next day. And you can see here what that looks like. And you see how after that graph, it's like it has this downward slope. Like that's not very good. That's not the direction you want the graphs going. You want them going in the other direction. So it's like there's more awareness, more people know about Weebly, but this thing's kind of like going down. And anyway, at the time, we didn't realize this was really bad. In April 2007, there was another fun and interesting moment. And we're just finishing up the NY Combinator, and it looked like maybe we'd be able to raise money from investors, but we got to a moment where we had less than $100 in our bank account, and rent was due, I think, in 2 weeks from that point. So we weren't freaking out too bad. We probably should have been freaking out a little bit more. But basically, we're like, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to pay rent? Dan was sort of talking with his dad, and his dad's like, yeah, maybe I'll bridge you guys. I can invest a little money in the company, but his one at the time, his one condition was that we had to move from San Francisco to San Jose, where the rent was cheaper, and we didn't want to move to San Jose. So we're like, okay, we're going to try to raise money, but we got to the point where it's like, okay, we don't have a ton of extra cash here, and rent's coming up in 2 weeks, and we have no real way that we're going to be able to pay this. Luckily, the investing round did come through, and we raised a $650K angel round. That's what the stack of paperwork looks like. It's pretty awful to have to read through it, but I suppose worth it to pick up the funding. Okay, so now we've got a little, this is almost some kind of validation, right? It's like you look at those graphs before, they're kind of going down, things aren't going perfectly, but now at least we have a little bit of validation. Like we're at least going to be able to work on this for the next few years, which is very, very cool. Here's sort of the next big thing that happened in May of 2007. So this is 15 months in. Again, this kind of tells you how much time it's been since the story, because Newsweek isn't even in print anymore. But at the time, this was like the cool thing. You could show your mom and be like, hey, Mom, look, it's kind of working. It's like not just this crazy idea. Like, I'm in Newsweek. So that was fun. That was a big moment. And here's what that looked like. Here's what the graph of that looked like. So you can see again, okay, this is great, right? Boom, it goes up. And I think that first little spike was when it hit online, and then the next one's when it actually got print and it got delivered to everyone. But again, okay, so we've settled at a new higher level. That's good. Maybe we're at like 400 a day now, but like notice this trend again. It's kind of sloping downwards. Really not what you want to see, like 15 months after you've been working on this thing. So, in July 2007, we moved apartments 902 to 903, right next door. It's a little bit bigger. Here's a photo there of Dan sitting down. And in Weebly International HQ, you can see a couple interesting things. So on our stats monitor, we now have 32,000 people signed up to use that have signed up for Weebly, which is great, and 34 people using it. So, okay, so we're making some progress, but 17 months in. And then in August, we got in Time Magazine 50 Best Websites of 2007. And again, here you see it going up, but then it's going right back down, and you see that same pattern, like that downward sloping pattern. So this is 18 months in. We've been working on this for a year and a half. I mean, how many things have you been working on, really set your mind to it for a year and a half? This was a long time. Things weren't heading in the right direction, but we were still just going at it. Like, we were still going to make it happen. And we weren't thinking of quitting ever. So this is 18 months in and no real traction. Finally, in October, we start to see our first real traction. And this is cool. So now things are not just going down, they're going up. And it's not just when press articles happen, it's on its own. It's via word of mouth. Okay, something's clicked. The product's now working for people. We have product market fit, and now things are heading up and to the right. And the cool part about this is that you can see now, every single day, just via word of mouth, we now get 1,000 people per day signing up, and it's just as big as being featured in Newsweek or Time. So finally, 20 months in, we start to see our first real traction. Around this time, we moved in July of 2008, we moved into our first office, finally moved out of the apartment, and we could get some space. And this is our first office. This is sort of, really small. I think it could fit about 15 people. I think it was 1,400 square feet, and this is sort of like the nice angle. This is the angle that makes it look really nice, but if you flip it around from the other direction, this is what it looked like, right? So again, I mean, you could imagine, it's just, like you could picture being there, right? It's like going from an apartment where it's just 3 desks pushed together, and then into this small little sort of one, open space, and again, just a couple desks pushed together, 6, 7 people just cranking, working away, and trying to make this thing work. So it was in July of 2008, 29 months in. Interesting thing happened, like right after we moved in, Lehman Brothers collapsed and went bankrupt. And so this was like not a great time overall. Here's December 2008. So this is a really interesting story. So basically, around January of 2008, we said, okay, well, we're probably going to run out of money in September. I suppose we could go out and try to raise another round. But like, what the hell? Let's just try to be profitable, right? Like, let's just try to see if we can do that. So from January to June, we built because at that point in time it was entirely free. You couldn't pay us money even if you wanted to. Like, we did have people emailing in and saying like, hey, where can I send you a check? I just feel bad using this service for free. Like, I feel like I should be able to send you some money. So we launched Weebly Pro. That was the first time that you could give us money in June of 2008. And we were like, okay, we had high expectations. This thing's going to go great, right? And didn't go so well. So we launched Weebly Pro. We're like, okay, we're making a little bit of money now, but it's not nearly enough to cover the bills. We're probably going to have to go raise a round. Instead of running out of money in September now, it's looking more like maybe end of October, November timeframe. So while we went out to try to raise money, but again, Lehman Brothers collapsed, financial meltdown, wasn't a good time to be raising money. And so we kind of got to the point, well, Weebly Pro was kind of growing a little bit. Like, it was kind of growing, but we were kind of close to covering our bills, but we were definitely going to run out of money. So what I did here for you guys, this is actually a graph of our company bank account balance at the time. And you can see how, boom, we raised $650K, and then like we kind of spend it slowly, and then we get to the point where, this is December 2008 was where that blue dot was, and we get to the point where it's like, okay, we're going to run out of money between like December and January, but we're like really close. So what are we going to do? And we're not going to be able to make payroll in January unless we figure something out. So, and not making payroll was never an option, by the way. I was thinking back again as to why we weren't totally freaking out, and it's because at the time the founders were getting a minimal salary from the company, but we could always just cut our salary and then be instantly profitable. So we had the nuclear option, but we said, okay, we got out a calendar and we said, okay, when are bills due? On which day are the bills due? And which bills, if we don't pay them, they shut off our servers and our site goes down, and which bills, if we don't pay them, someone calls and yells at us, because that second option is totally cool, but the first option is not. So we mapped it out, and sure enough, we just squeezed by, and then in January of 2009, boom, right? So first time, we're now cash flow positive. January is a great month for us. And now you can see how, even in the months after that, now things are heading in the right direction. So that was 35 months, and I think a pretty big moment for the company, and that's where we got to cash flow break even. We were cash flow positive, and we have been ever since that time. Okay, so let's skip forward a little bit. This is February 2010, 48 months in. So 4 years in, okay, now things are looking good, right? This is the kind of graph you want to see. And you can see all the way back there, those little squiggles, that was Newsweek in Time all the way back there, and every day now we're getting 4,000 or 5,000 people coming through the door, all word of mouth, just people that love the product, that are really happy with it, and just tell everyone they know. But that was 4 years, right? A lot of times you read these stories, it's this overnight success story, blah 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 blah. But no, it's a lot of hard work, and it's years and years. That's 4 years of your life where you're just scrappy, cranking, struggling, to get this thing to take off. In March of 2011, 61 months in, we partnered with Sequoia Growth. In August of 2011, we moved into our next office, so out of the Battery Street office on the Pacific office. That was 65 months in. Here's a couple photos of what that looked like. So walking in, there's Natalie there, sitting in front. Again, just an open area. There was some fun stuff too. So this is kind of as you walk in, you see the downstairs area. Picnic tables. We brought in lunch every day, and we all sat together as a team. Pool, ping pong, all that. So it was a fun place. August 2014. So we're kind of just skipping through things here and blazing quickly. 100 months. So 100 months after we started working on Weebly, a couple major things happened. First of all, we opened up a Scottsdale office. So we had a small office in New York at this point, but a big presence here in Scottsdale. So that's the initial team in Scottsdale taking a photo under the sign. And if you walk through those doors there, that was our office in Scottsdale. There's now about 75 people working there. And we also moved into a new office in San Francisco. So I want to kind of take you guys through just a quick tour of our current office in San Francisco, but this is where we are. The whole building will fit about 450 people, so we've got room to grow. As you walk through the front door, you can see here the lobby. And if we, again, still, an open area. This is what it looks like. Actually, all those desks are sit to stand, so they have nice little buttons. You can press a button, the whole thing comes up, and you can stand and do work, which is much healthier for you. And yeah, it's just kind of a big open space. There's no offices. I just sit right in the middle, and everyone's able to be really, really collaborative that way. Here's a photo of one of our conference rooms. And that kind of takes us downstairs. You can see, after walking the lobby, if you go down the stairs, that's what that looks like here. Again, similar feel with the pool and the ping pong. We serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day from our kitchen, and really awesome food. Chef Michael. So we've hired a lot of really awesome, smart people, but everyone unanimously agrees that Chef Michael is the best hire we ever made. And a couple other perks. One of these is a jam room. So this is very cool. Especially with the Marshall half stack, that thing is a lot of fun to play. But kind of if you're kind of concentrated or in work mode and just kind of need to clear your mind a little bit, come in here and practice or play for 15, 30 minutes in the middle of the day. We also have a gym. Weights. Also have massages. So every other week, everyone in the company can sign up for a 30-minute massage. And then finally, another cool thing here, so this is kind of in the open area. There's a couple places just to sit down and work. If you look and see the bookshelf in the back, if you know the right book to press, it's Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which is an awesome book, by the way, if you've never read it. If you know the right book to press, this thing opens into a secret room. It's a secret bookshelf. Opens into a secret room, and here's a photo of what that looks like. So really a lot of fun. some great scotch and whiskey in there. If you are in San Francisco, you should stop by for a drink. So it's now April 2015. It's been 110 months after we started Weebly, and it's obviously still an unfinished story. But where are we today, right? We have over 30 million people who have signed up to create a website on Weebly. Every month, we have 250 million people globally that visit a site made on Weebly. If you pull out just the US number, that is, so I'm going to skip through that real quick, that is 33% of the US visits a Weebly made site every month, whether they realize it or not, because a lot of times our branding isn't there. You're just visiting someone's store or someone's site and don't realize that. The team size now, about 225 people. About 115 people in San Francisco, about 75 people in Scottsdale, a smaller presence in New York, a couple remote support workers, and also opening up other offices. And cash flow positive since 2009 and remains so today. So I think that was, that part of the story was a very interesting and defining moment. So I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about lessons learned, things, sort of a little bit of advice. I think I have 4 points, and go through that. So number one, okay, this one just seems like a truism. It seems obvious, but a lot of people don't realize this. And I think this is the number one lesson from the story, is you can't succeed if you quit. It's so obvious, but the only way to fail is by quitting. So if you just don't quit, then you won't fail. And a lot of people don't appreciate, that when you go and start a company, I mean, if it's successful, and you hope it will be, that is 7 to 10 years of your life, right? That is going to be a long time. It's not one of these sort of, I'm just going to put in like 18 months of work and my company gets acquired and all of that. So I think the main thing here is just, I think it takes you have to be determined and persistent. And Y Combinator actually calls this relentlessly resourceful, right? So the idea is that a lot of people you get started on something, but then you hit your first hurdle and then you stop. If this thing is going to succeed, if it's going to take off, then you have to just start working on it and be relentless and not quit. Number 2 point, kind of on a similar vein. A lot of times I get questions, people come down and they're like, hey man, I got this really great idea and I just need to find a programmer to build it for me. And frankly, it's a very common, very, very common, but when you think about it, it's pretty ridiculous because it's like you're saying, hey, I'm going to go start a law firm and I just need to find some lawyers I could hire, right? Or I'm going to go start a medical practice, I just need to find some doctors, right? Obviously that wouldn't make a lot of sense if you said that, right? And it's the same thing here. If technology is going to be a critical part of what you're starting, then you need technology at the core, in your team, on the founding team. So where does learn to code come in? Well, basically, you're going to face a lot of really, really hard things as you're starting your company. And the best way to get off on the right foot is to be able to do all the work yourself and not need anyone else's permission or anyone else's help. So if the initial team, which is you, maybe some friends, if you can build the app yourself, then it's literally just working nights and weekends. That's pretty straightforward. That's not that hard to do. If you need to somehow go out and hire someone and learn something you don't know, it's so much more difficult. The reality, too, is that as you're making decisions, as the company grows, if you don't know how to code, then you aren't speaking the same language. It's like, how would you make decisions about how to grow a law firm if you didn't know anything about being a lawyer, right? And so it adds a new vocabulary that you can talk with the whole technical side of your company, which will probably be, about half or more of the company. And then the reality is, if you're unwilling to do something as simple as learning to code, it's not that difficult. If you're unwilling to do something as simple as learning to code, that is just the first of many, many hurdles you'll have to jump over. And so the best way to get started is just to learn how to code and then do it yourself. Cool. Number 3 lesson. Don't be afraid to grow the team. So I think this is one of the major mistakes that we made over the years. You don't want to grow the team too fast because that's really bad too. But you also don't want to grow the team too slowly. And so kind of as you're, as things are working, as it's taking off, grow the team. Make sure that, I like to think about it as the company and the business, right? And the way I define those is, it's weird. Internet companies are weird, right? Because you can't reach out and touch them. It's like money just shows up in your bank account. like you have servers, okay, fine, you go look at the servers, but you're never like directly face-to-face with your customers in that way. And so that's what I call the business, right? It's this almost intangible thing, like you update code, you push it to servers, people come in, they plug in their credit card numbers, like money shows up in your bank account, but it's like intangible, right? And then the company is everything tangible. That's our office, that's our people, the team, everything that's very, very tangible. You want to make sure that those are growing at about the same pace. So if the business is growing quickly, you want to make sure to grow the company as well. And then the last point here, focus on that one thing. So it's very common, when you're first starting out to think, okay, well, what do you think of when you're like, okay, I need to start a company, I'm going to start a company, like, what should I do first, right? So you're like, well, I need to write a business plan, right? And I probably need to contact some attorneys, get incorporated, and I should get me one of those like fancy corporate seals, right? So I could look real fucking legitimate. And then like office space, but none of those things matter. Like none of those things matter. What matters is like I know that the first time I started a company in high school, like I was all focused on the financials. Like financials are just documentation of the real business activity. Like financials in themselves aren't doing business. That's not what business is about. Business is about creating value for your customers, right? Make something people want. It's about taking something that was hard for someone and making it easier. That's all that matters. Like if you're doing that really well, then that's all that matters. So, but whatever that next thing is, and this applies to any stage, it's all about focus, right? It's all about what's the thing that gets you to the next level, right? Is it launching your product? If that's the thing that gets you to the next level, then just focus on that. Don't focus on all these other things. Like, and maybe in other industries you'd have slightly different advice if like patents would be a big part of your strategy. In startups, patents are not a big part of your strategy for software. They're not very enforceable and they're not worth spending a lot of time on. Same thing with the business plan. Like you could spend months writing a business plan and then have to tear it up like the first day that you talk to a real customer. It's completely pointless. So of course, like think about those things. How am I going to monetize? Like what do I want to be building? Like it's helpful to think about all of them, but spending 3 months putting it down on like a 30-page paper like it doesn't do you any good because it's just changing so rapidly. So whatever that one thing is, just relentlessly focus on that one thing. And initially, it's going to be building your product and getting it out to your customers. You need to be doing whatever it takes to make that happen and nothing else. That's the only thing that matters. So I just want to finish on here a quick video. We put this together to showcase a couple of our customers, what they're doing with Weebly, and just kind of gives you an idea of how we think about the company and how we help our customers. So here we go.
The most challenging part about opening my own business was just starting.
Growing a business, there are a lot of moving parts, and you only learn by creating something and testing it out.
And when I found Weebly, it was such a simple platform that really inspired me to just go for it. My name is Alicia.
My name is Caesar.
I'm April, and I started my Sunday
on Weebly.
on Weebly.
There you have it. Here's my email if you want to ask me any questions by email, but I think we're going to start now with a couple questions. So do you want to start with those? Cool.
Thank you, David.
Thanks, everyone.
Before we open up questions to the audience, we're going to have Mitch over here facilitate a few questions to begin with. I'll give you this mic.
Cool. So I want to jump back to 2006. You guys were still in that class. At what point did you know that like this is a project you wanted to do outside of class or move forward with it?
It was pretty quickly. Originally, like maybe for 24 or 48 hours, the idea was like that we would help people build resumes, actually, which is interesting. Because it was hard to build resumes, and then like I started digging into it and writing the database schema, and I got all excited about how I could create this like general purpose CMS. And then 48 hours later, I think it turned into we could do something a lot more general than building resumes. But at the time, for that first like 2 days, our business model was going to be $5, and the tagline was "It's cheaper than McDonald's," right? And so, but the idea evolved very, very quickly, and then at that point in time in the class, it was just obsessed, right? So I was working as a student here, was working sort of nonstop. I was so excited about all the progress, and and then just sort of naturally just kept working on it because it seemed like something that should exist in the world that didn't.
Cool. So a lot of people are interested in starting their own business in college, but are involved with a lot of other things, whether it's Thon or they're taking engineering courses, and they don't necessarily have the time to do it full time, right?
Yeah.
So how do you make time while still in college, or how did you guys make time or make it a priority?
I think making time is not hard. Frankly, it's not like I made time for that and nothing else. Like so I put myself through college by DJing a bunch of frat parties here and like bars, and I was still doing that, so I was still working like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights. So like I think at the time I was taking like a full course load too. So it's not. I think making time is necessarily the problem. As much as like being focused and relentless and just pursuing it. Like you have plenty of extra time. It's just a matter of how you spend it.
Cool. So I have a couple more before we open up to the audience.
One thing I want to say too, if you're thinking about starting a business, it's so much less risky than people realize. Because like the absolute worst case scenario, the worst thing that can happen is that you have an amazing resume, right? Like you will learn so much doing this and just figuring out all these problems. I mean, things you thought were hard are not actually hard. Like incorporating is easy, finding an office is easy, but you learn so much in such a short amount of time. And if you're successful, then you're able to grow that thing. And if the worst thing that can happen to you is that you have a kick-ass resume.
Cool. What did you guys learn about when you first launched and when you got your first customer? And you obviously went with the free model early on. So do you have any regrets or would have done something differently there?
No. I think freemium's great. Freemium is the way we operate is that Weebly is free to use like 90%, and there's certain features, more targeted businesses or others that are an upgrade, but still very affordable. It's between $4 and $25 a month. I think, what did we learn? I mean, no product survives its interaction with the first customer. So you have this idea, I mean, this is a very common misconception too, is like everyone you talk to thinks they have the new hottest thing, the best idea, and like they just need to build it exactly how they imagine it, and then it's gonna be awesome. And it never works out that way. The way it always works out is like you build something and you show it to people, and they don't tell you it sucks. I wish they would just tell you it sucks, but they just kind of like lose interest and don't come back, right? And that means you don't have product market fit. So I think that the things we learned. I mean, we learned so much. It wasn't WYSIWYG, right? So at the time, it was sort of more CMS-oriented approach where you sort of drop content in, but you couldn't actually see your site until you previewed or publish, right? And one of the big things we fixed was making it entirely WYSIWYG, so you could just edit your site as you see it. There were a lot of things like that, but it requires constantly being in touch with your customers, getting their feedback, and just like rapid iteration improvement.
Cool. So like in 2008, you saw finally that traction go the right way. Mm-hmm. You saw product market fit. What did you think on a product standpoint?
What did we do that caused that? Yeah, no, it's a very common question, and unfortunately, I don't have a very satisfactory answer, which is we don't totally know. There was like a lot of things that were happening sort of at that time. I think the product was finally improving to a certain level. Again, things like WYSIWYG, things like so there's the product was sort of mediocre before that. It's a fairly complex product. It took us a lot of time to build. Also, just like one thing I remember distinctly, but we had awful performance in Internet Explorer. So like none of us were using IE at the time. That was the most popular browser. And then once we just did a round of profiling and realized like we sped everything up by like 800% or something like that, and then that contributed. So I think there's a lot of things that combined. The way I like to think about it is just we finally got product market fit.
Nice. And then when you applied to YC, what was that process like? Because a lot of people are applying to the Penn State Summer Founders Program. Mm-hmm. So what advice would you give them? Yeah.
So when we applied to YC, it's basically exactly the same application as the Summer Founders Program, right? And so on purpose, like Matt and the team just ripped it off on purpose because it's great, and like with permission, of course. And so I mean, I think the big thing there is. There's a lot of things, but the big things you evaluate the market. You want to be playing in a big market. I think the saying is even a mediocre team in a big market, is better than an amazing team in a shitty market. So you want to have big market, which means like how big could this thing scale up? Like how many potential customers do you have? All of that. Obviously you want to focus on the team. Anything that you can put down there that is impressive. Accomplishments that you've done obviously helps. And then I think spending a little bit of time thinking about the idea, monetization, all of that, and being able to think, there's a lot of common mistakes people make. A very common mistake is not having clarity of thought around what your idea does, like what your business will do, and like truly the elevator pitch model. But even 30 seconds is too long. Like you should be able to describe exactly what you do in like one sentence. And if you don't have that, I think it's a common area for people to trip up.
Cool. I wanted to open up with questions. I'm not sure how we're. Cool.
Oh, trade me mics here.
So if you have a question, just feel free to raise your hand. We'll come and get you with the mic. And if you have any questions as well, feel free to post them on Twitter.
Yeah.
Anyone?
You can just ask me while they're walking around with the mic.
Okay, I was just going to ask you were talking about IP before. Did you guys have IP going into it? It sounds like you didn't. And do you have it now? I also have a second question for you, if that's all right. Advice on getting featured on stuff like tech.
Yeah, okay, cool. So two very good questions. The first question is, did you have IP going into it? And if not, do you do now? We do now. But I think that, if like different industries, I think the advice would be slightly different. Like if you're going into pharmaceuticals, obviously the IP is very important there. But for tech startups, it is not worth focusing on early on. Of course, you get to the point where it's like, oh man, like I wish I had filed that patent like as soon as you're successful. But that's a good place to be. Like that's a much better place to be than focusing on a million things. Like the reality is, there's really only one thing that kills startups. And it's lack of product market fit. That's really the only thing that kills startups. So frankly, competitors don't kill startups. With hundreds and hundreds of companies in YC, like I think it's maybe been less than 5 times that a competitor has like killed a startup. Everyone's always worried about like, oh, what if Google comes and competes with me? Like, no, don't spend time thinking about that. When you spend time thinking about it, it's like, how do I create an amazing product that is very useful to people that they're going to love? And so anyway, so that's sort of a broader answer on your question about IP. But all of these things, frankly, for tech startups are not worth focusing on early on. The thing that will kill you, that kills 90% plus startups, is lack of product market fit. So that's what you need to be focused on: shipping your product, at least a beta, getting out in front of users, getting their feedback, quickly iterating until finally you have a really great product. And then, and remind me of your second question.
It's about TechCrunch.
Oh yeah. So then the second question is, how do you get featured on TechCrunch? Incredibly difficult. My best recommendation would be to move to San Francisco and buy reporters a ton of drinks.
Yeah, as you were starting up, or after you got like a little bit some traction, what was your marketing strategy, and how did you get users to view your site or pull them in? So, for example, comparing like sites, features and functions, specific targeting. So anyone who wanted a site, or for business, or for profiling, what was your strategy there?
Sure. So like, what was your strategy for growth, basically? It's always just been word of mouth. So it's one of those things. I mean, I think word of mouth works really well when it's sort of this black box, right? And then you like the inputs are like press, right? So if you create something that's truly useful, that's like, Sequoia likes to describe it as like a hair on fire problem, right? Like people are running around with their hair on fire, and like they need water to put it out, right? And if you could solve someone's problem like that, and then press, right? And so what happens is like, you get some amount of press, and then some people know about it, and you can see from the graphs like it's a small amount early on, but when it's truly a hair on fire problem and you're doing a really good job of solving that for people, they tell other people, right? And then it just grows via word of mouth. I mean, our net promoter score is 80%, which is like phenomenally high. I think Apple's is 63%, and so it's a measure of, if you ever answer that question, how likely are you to recommend this product to a friend, like 0 to 10, that's a net promoter score. And so I think our strategy was essentially just create a kick-ass product, get a couple reporters to write about it, and then this thing just kind of spreads from there. Yeah. So the question is basically, has anyone contacted us, or have we ever thought about putting ads on user sites? Like, I've always been philosophically against that because I guess I'm probably a little bit older than most of you now. But my first website was on GeoCities, and GeoCities used to be pretty awesome. Like, you'd create your website and then you'd upload the files, and then at the time, this concept of free hosting was out of control, right? It was like mind blowing. And then, as it got popular, they just started cramming ads on your site unless you paid them. And then at one point, it just got so ridiculous. There's maybe 6 different ad units on the site. And to me, that was always the beginning of the end for them. And so, frankly, we've never put ads on people's sites. It's when you stop to think about it, it's pretty amazing. Actually, you get free world-class hosting. We've had people that haven't paid us a dime that have been on the front page of CNN or Reddit. They get millions of visitors to their site. The thing scales automatically. You never have to worry about being hacked. It's geographically redundant in case there's a big earthquake in San Francisco. We have another physical location with all the servers. And so it's amazing what you get for free. But we've always felt like if we give away a lot, that's sort of the marketing strategy. You give away a lot. People do get a lot of value for free. And at some point, if they've been using it for a few years, they're like, okay, well, actually, I need this feature now. Maybe I'll upgrade, or they just tell their friends. Yep.
So when you got started, you said that you just posted a link to a bunch of forums and people were signing up to be there. I know that recently you launched your first ad campaign on TV.
Mm-hmm.
And could you explain why you decided to do that, and then also maybe talk about the emerging competitors in your space? And
Sure. Yeah. So the question is sort of our we first got a little bit of users signing up by posting on forums, but obviously we've grown our strategy since then. We just launched a TV ad campaign. Which I forget which game it was, but it was on during one of the Penn State games, which was cool. And sort of why are we doing that, and competition and all that. So cool. So the TV campaign, I think we're getting to the point. The main reasoning there is that it's amazing how many people need to create a store or a site. Really, this would be amazing for them, but the perception is that it's too hard for a non-technical user to do it, right? And that's the perception. And so you have these stats 60% of small businesses in the U.S. don't have a website. That's crazy. That's crazy. And a website's just step one, right? You go so much further than that because step one is just getting online, but then you should do commerce. We have this awesome restaurant in Chicago, for example, that has created this really innovative way to use Weebly e-commerce to sell seats and do group dining and all this stuff. It's really cool. And a lot more people could be doing that. But 60% of businesses in the US don't have a website. It's even worse internationally. We did a consumer survey in the US where we asked, do you think you would be able to create a website yourself? 80% of people said no. So the reality is that it's gotten to the point where anyone can do it. We've had people as young as 5 years old, as old as 95, create a website themselves. It is totally doable for anyone if they want to do it. And so part of that campaign was to help reach more people, tell them what we're about, and sort of show them that they could do it themselves too.
A question in the back.
Hello. Hi, I'm Joe, and I have a question.
Hey, Joe.
Where do you see Weebly in 5 years? And do you have any idea, any new markets that you might enter? And are you planning on selling your equity stake anytime soon and starting something else?
So to answer the last question, am I planning on selling anytime soon and starting something else? No. I really do think that this could be something that I'm working on for the next 20 years. And a big part, the two biggest parts I think that are very fulfilling. One is the way we're able to help our customers, the way that we're able to, this is their life dream. This is something that something that they're passionate about. They want to get this started, and there's all these roadblocks, and we remove those. We kind of serve as a springboard when they're running and they're ready to take the leap to start a business. We help them do that. And number two is the company and the culture. I think that we've built a very special company, and it's a great place to work. It's really all about the people. So that answers that piece. But sorry, remind me again what the other two questions were.
The other question was, what new market would Weebly consider itself entering?
Oh yeah, and like, what does it look like in 5 years? I think, today what we do, so our mission is fairly large. It's to help the world's entrepreneurs succeed. We want to make it so that anyone can start a business. Our vision of success in 5 years is if a lot more of the global economy is going through small businesses, right? And it's so exciting to be able to shop that way. You learn about why they did this, why it's higher quality, and you can learn about the person, behind the product. But websites, e-commerce, I mean, that's really just the start. We want to, I think what we do really well as a company is take complicated things and make them simple. And we've done that with a few things now, with websites, with blogs, with e-commerce. But in 5 years, I expect to be able to do that, for all kinds of business problems that people have. How, when they want to manage their business or grow their business, help them with marketing. There's just so many opportunities that we can help people start and grow their business. And so, that's kind of that's where we hope to be in 5 years. And, I think you're going to start seeing, a lot from us on that front, even in the near future.
Thank you.
So what does your support infrastructure look like? I mean, I know building websites is a pretty complex task. Like, is it a self-serve model, as in, like, you let them do whatever they want and there's no support, or do you offer support to your customers?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So the question is, what does our support model look like? Do we offer support to our customers? How can you talk to us? So yes, the model is self-serve. And you're absolutely correct. It is, it can be intimidating. It can seem complex. It's certainly not, as straightforward as just like, clicking next, right? But the model is you build the site yourself, and then when, if you need some questions answered, or if you need a little bit of help, we're there for you. And so, our primary customer contact center is in Scottsdale. Actually a very cool place, if you've never been there. And we're on the phones with people. Like, you could call us up. We'll talk to you on the phone. You could. We've got live chat and we've got email. So really, whatever mechanism is the most comfortable for you to interact with us, like, we're there to help. And it's a big part of our mission. There is how do we help people be successful, answer their questions. But ultimately, you're building the site. But if you have some questions, we're here to help.
What were some of the largest security hurdles that you faced when securing so many websites, especially as your user base started to grow rapidly?
Yeah, so the question is, what are some of the largest security hurdles? I mean, security has always been something that, even when we started in 2006, 2007, has been very important to us. In high school, I started a company that did managed secure email, so it was very near and dear to my heart. And probably the better person to answer that question would be Chris, our CTO, that's sitting right here. But I'll give it a shot. Basically, I think it's just being proactive about it, being on top of it. It's multifaceted, from putting up your defenses early on, things like two-factor authentication, putting things behind VPN, all of that. I mean, there's a huge list of things there. To being on top of things when 0 days come out, and and you need to do updates, to being really on top of that. I think a certain piece of it too is just having great backups, making sure your data is secure. And then finally, having a responsible disclosure program. So, we do pen testing a lot. We have security researchers that we pay to find vulnerabilities. But then also just have a program where if anyone stumbles across a vulnerability, and it's happened a couple times, they could get in touch and we'll give them a bounty, and we fix it right away. So, I think there's a lot to that. And if you're curious about specifics, come talk to Chris.
Did you guys finish a fundraising round recently for venture capital or something?
Yeah. So we finished a round. So the question is, we finished a fundraising round. It was about a year ago, so a little while ago. But we raised $35 million at the value of the company at $455 million, and that was from Sequoia and Tencent.
So then, could you talk about why you decided to do that, and then from investor like Sequoia, what are the long-term exit strategies for something like that? Are you looking at IPO later, or how would they get?
Yeah. So then the question there is like, for someone like Sequoia, like how are they going to make money? Like we're looking at IPO, all of that. There's at this point we have nothing specific that I could say on that front, but we're just focused on growing the company, right? And so I think we're looking to hire about 200 people this year, and the business is just growing at a phenomenal rate. The thing that we're really passionate about is just continuing to improve the product every day for our customers, making it better. Frankly, I still feel like the product is pretty shitty. I feel like we still have so much we could do to make it better. It's better than it used to be, but there's a lot that we can improve. So, at the end of the day, I think, if you stay focused on that, if you stay focused on making the product better, being a great asset, like really, partnering well with your customers, and creating a lot of value for them, everything else kind of works itself out.
It seems like, from what I've read though, you guys have like the highest customer satisfaction compared to like Squarespace and that sort of thing. I mean, it seems like at least on your campaigns and stuff, you guys don't talk about that you guys have that type of high rating.
Yep.
Your competitors, why is it you're not, are you guys?
Well, no, so the question is like, we have a really high net promoter score, it's like the best, and that's true. I think we're just, we like to put our customers first when we do marketing, right? And so we like to show the stories, and it's all about them, not about us, right? And so I think, at the end of the day, it's really to inspire, and people feel a bit apprehensive, right? And we just want to be able to inspire them to get started. And so that's really, what our marketing is focused around, is showcasing our customers, showing what people have done with the platform, and how really anyone can do it.
What was the most important lesson that you learned going through Y Combinator? And then also, what would you say is your biggest piece of advice if you're applying to, say, something like YC or Techstars?
Yeah, so two questions there. The first one is, what did we learn at YC? And second, like any advice for applying to YC? The first piece, I think like we learned so much, but I think the main piece of advice is that lack of product market fit is what kills basically everyone. There's only two hard things in starting a company. It's product market fit and like hiring and building a great team. Like those are fundamentally the only two hard things. And everything else is pretty easy. And so, great guidance there was, it's again, like you're getting started, you're not sure like what you should be working on, and you think of all these things, and you really end up spinning your wheels, you're writing business plans, all this stuff. It's just focus on that one thing. Figure out and early on it's product market fit. So no one, the number of people who have died by getting sued or getting crushed by their competition or not properly planning this and that or whatever is almost nobody. At least 90% of startups that are killed by lack of product market fit. So that is the thing that will kill you. So what you need to do to fix that is just launch as soon as you can, get it out there, and then iterate. Listen very closely to your customers, and then just constantly iterate. So, unfortunately, people don't tell you that your idea is shitty. It sucks to hear that, but you almost wish they did just so they could tell you where it's wrong. But people don't so you really have to just grab that feedback out of them. And just watch people use it, see where they get confused, see how it's not working, and then just quickly iterate until you get product market fit. And the advice for applying to YC, again, I think same thing as applying for Summer Founders Program here. I think it's just remember to focus on the market, focus on the team, and anything impressive that you can list, and spend some time thinking about the idea and business model.
So I had I guess a question or clarifying comment. You're not going to put ads on our websites.
Yes.
But we can put ads on our websites.
Correct.
And monetize, traffic.
Correct. So the question is, we're not going to force ads on your sites, but what if you want to put ads on your sites to monetize the sites? Totally cool. We have a really cool Google AdSense integration. You can just drag and drop AdSense ads on your site. Very, very cool. And you keep 100% of that revenue. We used to have it, so we split it with you 50-50, but then we decided that wasn't very nice, so we changed it to you keep all the money. So yes, if you're getting a lot of traffic, you want to put ads on your site and monetize that way, totally cool.
Hi. So other than what you're working on, what do you see as the most interesting thing in the technology space for the future?
Yeah. So the question is, other than what we're working on, which is obviously super interesting, what other cool things are sort of like trends? So that's a great question. I'm a huge fan. So I invested in this company called Zenefits. They're awesome. They basically make like HR, like traditional HR, like you know, if you've ever worked at a company, you have to like log into their system for your paycheck, or when you get started and you have to like staple like a voided copy of a real check or something like. I mean, and it's like all the paperwork you fill out and getting started. And so they basically make it really easy. You know, like when you join Weebly, it's like 15 minutes. You sign with your finger on your laptop. You click a couple buttons. You know, you plug in your routing and bank account number, and like you're up and running in 15 minutes. And then there's a whole amount of managing your healthcare and your deductions and if you want to change which bank account you pay. It's like really simple. Truly like next generation software. I like that as a concept, which is taking technology to industries that are very, very big. So the way Zenefits makes their money is that they're the health insurance broker for the company. What's crazy is that health insurance brokers for companies make $500 per employee per year, just as from the health insurance company. And those payments to the brokers amount to, I think, something over $100 billion per year, which is crazy. And there was zero technology there before that. Maybe for like really large companies, but it was all shit, right? So I like that concept, which is find a really big market where it seems kind of boring, right? Like who thought like the coolest company to come out in the last 2 years would be in like HR and healthcare, like benefits, and yeah, but any market I think that's really big. Then a couple other trends, they're definitely starting to come out. One's biohacking. So there's a lot going on in the biology space. People like creating things, like being able to like read write DNA. It's insane. But it's super interesting. That's like a next frontier. I think 3D printing is really interesting. I think self-driving cars are amazing. I can't wait for them to come out. I think that's going to be like the internet was our thing, that changed. I think self-driving cars are going to be our children's thing. That it was like, holy shit, cars don't just drive themselves. And when you look at the amount of the economy that's all wrapped up in just people driving cars, or like catering to that, it's crazy. Like just looking at taxi drivers, looking at truck drivers, looking at like the highway patrol, even looking at hospitals. Like a significant percentage of a hospital's sort of patients come from car accidents. And we look at how many people per year. About 50,000 people per year die, in a car accident. So I think, that's another thing I think is like totally the future. And then there's emerging stuff in space too. Like I don't know if you saw SpaceX's attempted landing of the first stage, which was amazing. They got so close. There's a lot happening, making it cheaper to send stuff up into space, and combine 3D printing with space. Let's go drag an asteroid, bring it real close. We got all of our materials there. That's how we create like a real big spaceship. And it's all coming up like faster than you realize.
So you said that hiring was one of the biggest difficulties or building a great team. So any do's and or don'ts of hiring, building a team kind of stuff?
Of hiring, yeah. So do's or don'ts of hiring. The way that we describe, so great question. It's probably helpful to talk about how we describe our culture. We describe our culture as basically in 4 words: radical respect plus honesty equals trust. My favorite quote of all time on company culture was from this guy, Bill Campbell. I saw him at a conference speaking. I think he just came up with it on the spot, but it's incredible. He said, culture is not about the free food and the ping pong tables. It's about how you treat your people and how they treat each other. And I've never heard a better way to describe culture. And so let's kind of unpack that sentence. Radical respect is this concept of no assholes, no ego. So that is non-negotiable for us. A lot of people have a no assholes rule. But like no egos means that like you're hiring some very smart, very talented, very accomplished people, but no one is walking around thinking that they're above any job or any person, right? It's like we're literally all like that's your your framework. Like we're literally all together, and everyone is valued, right? Like we're all doing different jobs, but truly, like everyone is contributing and is doing a very valuable role for the company. So that's the first piece is that true respect. And when you have that, then you get the second piece, which is honesty. And this is also really hard. It's, you have eight people around a table in a meeting, and 7 people like agree on a direction, and one person like has the courage to raise their hand and say, actually, I don't think this is the right approach. I think we're all thinking about it the wrong way. Like, I think we should do it differently. And you could really only get number 2 if you have number 1, because otherwise if someone says that, you're not being like, oh, that guy's an asshole, like he's trying to make me look bad. But no, you really know, like we're a team in search of a solution, right? And we're all trying to find the optimal approach, and we're all working together to do that. And I think when you have those two, people aren't going to stab you in the back, or but like really that's when you get trust, and trust is what's really important. So for us, those are essentially the main things. We're looking for people who are incredibly talented, incredibly smart, very motivated. Again, no assholes or egos. We interview people all the time who meet all of the other criteria, like just like killer smart, really motivated, but they got huge egos. Like that's just not for us. Like that could work great at some other companies, but just not for us. Those are some of the things. But the one thing I'll say, one of my favorite interview questions is to ask what you do outside of work, because the theory is that, and then I try to like figure out like if you're really passionate about it. So if you say like watching movies, that's actually not a wrong answer necessarily. But I'm like, what kind of movies do you like to watch? Like what are your favorite directors? Like, oh, what do you think about this one versus this one? And like what I'm looking for is people who are really passionate about something outside of work. And the working theory is that if you're really passionate about something, you're that type of person that can get really passionate and dive deep on something, and you enjoy your work, then you'll be really passionate and motivated at work. So I could talk about that for an hour, but those are a couple different things we look for.
So a lot of times, large organizations like universities, they use their own content management system, and they might not use Weebly or something along those lines. How does Weebly, or what solutions does Weebly offer to, say, Penn State if they wanted to access Weebly's services? I know this doesn't really follow your mission of helping entrepreneurs succeed, but where do you see Weebly going with helping people or larger organizations?
Sure. So the question is, like for Penn State, for example, use an internal CMS. Does Weebly have anything that's helpful there? And I think that like the defining characteristic of all Weebly users, the large majority of them are actually starting businesses and are entrepreneurs. The defining characteristic is people who are very entrepreneurial, right? So even if you're in Penn State, you're the type of person to get shit done, right? Like you're like always thinking like, how do I make this better? You got initiative, right? It's the coolest type of person ever. Interestingly, in fact, we just launched Weebly for Enterprise that basically makes it so that you can take, but there's a huge amount of educational institutions that use it. So you can use Weebly as a CMS. I won't go into too many details, but there's all kinds of APIs. You can integrate logins. You can publish to your own servers and host it there. So we do offer plenty of solutions for that.
Cool. I think we have 2 more questions to kind of wrap things up here.
Sure.
Tomorrow there is the Silicon Valley speaker series in the hub from 12 to 4. What should students try to take away from that? Yeah,
I think we have a phenomenal group of people coming, and a lot of them are getting in tonight. And I think like come to these talks. Like listen to the stories. Some of the things will be very similar, but I think if you're interested in starting a company, I mean, it's super helpful just to see how these guys did it. Like Dropbox is huge now, but Drew actually started like 6 months after us, or maybe it was a little bit longer, and it was just like him and Arash working out of his apartment, right? And so these things start very small. Like you tend to see them once they've grown larger, but I think spend the time to appreciate that this is totally something you can do. Like it wasn't magical when we started. Like, it was just 3 guys in a living room just cranking away, right? And so but just listen. I mean, these guys had some amazing experience. This truly is, I think, a lineup of speakers that that even out in the Bay Area would be a phenomenal lineup. And so so definitely come. These are all really cool guys and gals. Check out what they have to say. And hopefully it'll give you a little inspiration.
And last question, if someone has an idea tonight, what can they go do right after this talk, or this weekend rather, too?
Yeah, so if you have an idea, by the way, feel free to email me if you just want to chat about it. I'm happy to talk to you about it. I would say the number one thing, right? So we talked a lot about product market fit and all of that. The number one thing is just launching a product, getting it out to users, and then iterating. If you can't launch a product if you can't build it yourself, usually. And so if you don't know how to code, then start learning to code. It's not that difficult. It's not like you have to be the only programmer forever. But it'll be a great learning experience. It shows commitment on your part. So if you go and talk with someone who is technical and a programmer, it shows amazing commitment that you're willing to do that in order to get your idea off the ground. So, so I think, but the main thing is just start. Start and don't stop. Just start and just make progress, every day, right? And just keep making progress until it's successful.
Cool. Thank you very much. Let's give David a round of applause.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Absolutely. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, David, and of course the rest of the Weebly team. If you are with us for the Pagula reception afterwards, transportation will be provided from the parking lot right over here. Thank you.